Hello YouTube. If you grew up in the 80s like I did, you're sure to remember the muscle figures. So that's M.U.S.C.L.E. Stands for Millions of Unusual Small Creatures Lurking Everywhere. They were made by Mattel in 1985 and they came in various colours, but I decided to collect all of the flesh ones because they're the ones that I remember the most from when I was a kid. I did another video on these muscle figures a long time ago where I mentioned 233 figures that were on a poster that Mattel released in 1985. I could officially have said that my collection was complete at that point because I had all of the 233 figures that were on the poster. However, there are these extra 3 figures that weren't on the poster that I felt that I needed to get as well. So this is what the poster looked like, and as you can see it's basically like a big checklist. This was a massive, great big A1 size poster, and it just allows you to see which figures you've got and which ones you still need, which is important because there are a lot of figures that look very similar to each other. If you are thinking about collecting these muscle figures, I thoroughly recommend that you get this poster first. So what are these last 3 figures that I'm talking about? Well, 2 of them were released in this. This is the only playset that was available as part of the Muscle toy line, and this is called the wrestling ring. So the first figure you're looking at here is called the wrestling ring Muscle Man figure. He looks almost identical to a figure that was in with the main lot, and I'll show you that and compare the 2 of them in a minute. Then the second figure here is called the Wrestling Ring Terrible figure. And again, he looks like a lot of other Terrible figures, but he's just in a slightly different position. And then we've got this guy, Satan Cross. This is the rarest of all of the figures. So it's pretty hard to source the 2 figures from the wrestling ring just because they were only available in that playset. Because of that, they have gradually become more and more expensive. It's worth mentioning that these official figures made by Mattel are made out of a harder plastic than another range of figures called the Kinnikuman that are made out of rubber material, and they feel more like erasers. They all have these official looking back stamps as well. Right, that was the Muscle Man wrestling ring figure. So next I'll show you the Terrible figure, and you can have a real good close-up look at him as well, so you can see all the sort of unique features. Like I said before, he is just the wrestling ring Terrible figure. There is another Terrible figure on the poster, at least one, if not more. This is the hard thing with collecting these muscle figures, is quite often there'll be one character, but there'll be lots of variations of him on the poster, and they all just look slightly different from each other, like their hands will be in a different position, or their arms will be in a different position. And that's why it makes collecting these figures really quite difficult, because so many of them look very similar to each other. This one though, you can see he's got his arms outstretched and his fists are clenched. Okay, the Satan Cross figure. Now this is the one that I was looking for literally years. It was really hard to track down. I mean, I did see it a few times, but it was really expensive, like £300 kind of thing, just for this one figure. And I wasn't going to pay that much. So I waited and I waited and I tried to find it at a bargain price. And I managed to in the end. It still was not cheap, but as it was literally the very last figure that I needed to complete my entire collection, it was a kind of a holy grail figure for me, so I didn't mind paying a little bit for it, but like I say, I was not going to spend £300. Again, you've got to be careful with this particular figure because it is available as a Kinnikuman, which is the one that's more rubbery, and you want this official plastic one. Right, I've laid out these 4 figures to show you. We've got there number 234, so that's the Muscle Man wrestling ring figure. 235 is the Terrible wrestling ring figure, and then 236 is Satan Cross. But also I've laid out 141, and can you see they look really similar to each other, these 2 Muscle Man figures, but that's the first one. The standard one is just a little bit bigger. Can you see he's a little bit taller? And there's another difference as well, like with his belt buckle. The belt buckle is like an oval shape on the first one, and it's slightly more rectangular looking on the smaller actual wrestling ring figure. Again, I'll pick him up so that you can have a close-up look and see if you can tell the difference, but it's the buckle that you want to be looking at. It's really like like a oval kind of dome shape. That's how I would describe it. It's much easier, I think, to see it in real life than it is probably on the camera, even though I'm zooming in closely. But yeah, it's really obviously kind of rounded oval shape in real life. Whereas with the other one, he's definitely smaller. You wouldn't be able to tell the size, I don't think, unless you had the two next to each other to be able to compare them. But yeah, he's definitely smaller. See if I can actually focus on this belt buckle. But yeah, the belt buckle is just a bit more rectangular. Not much. I mean, it is slightly rounded as well, but it is kind of just slightly squared off at the edges. There's straighter lines at either side of the belt buckle, whereas on the other one they're more like curved lines. Okay, I hope that's been helpful to some of you collectors. Hit subscribe to see any other videos I post up in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.